My husband lost his job, so I took a promotion. At dinner, his father sneered, "A woman providing? Pathetic." Days later, I found my office cleaned out. He'd used my laptop to resign me. "You work too much anyway," he said coldly. I just nodded and handed him the paper I'd been saving for. I'm a 35-year-old woman living in Charlotte, North Carolina. Been married to Mark for 6 years. When we met, he was charming, smart, driven. He worked in tech. I worked in finance. We clicked fast. We weren't perfect, but we worked hard and made things happen. I built up a steady career at a financial services firm downtown. Long hours, yeah, but I loved the work. I loved being good at something and knowing I was respected. Mark was doing well too, at least for the first few years. Then his startup began falling apart. The funding dried up, the layoffs started, and one day, it was over. He came home quiet. Said, "They shut us down." Just like that. I told him it was okay. That we'd figure it out. He didn't need to rush. We had money saved, and I could handle the bills until he got back on his feet. He thanked me, hugged me, told me he was lucky to have me. At first, it felt like we were a team. But over time, it changed. He stopped trying. Stopped job hunting seriously. He'd say, "There's nothing good out there," or, "I'm being picky. I don't want just any job." He started staying up late gaming. Sleeping in. Avoiding conversations. I was still working 60-hour weeks and coming home to a husband who barely noticed me. Then came the promotion. My boss offered me a major step up. Regional director. Bigger paycheck, more hours, but a serious recognition of the work I'd put in. I'd been waiting for that shot for years. I came home excited. Told Mark over dinner. His reaction? Cool. That was it. Not even a smile. That night I lay in bed next to him, wide awake, feeling cold even though he was right there. It was like I was living next to a stranger. Then came dinner with his parents. We hadn't seen them in months. They invited us to this steakhouse in South Charlotte, fancy place with stiff chairs and pretentious servers. I didn't want to go, but Mark said, "Let's just get it over with." That should have been my first sign. His dad, Don, is the kind of man who thinks men are providers and women are support staff. Retired contractor, deep southern voice, always a glass of bourbon in hand. He used to make jokes about me being a workaholic. I let them slide. But this time? He went too far. Halfway through the meal, Mark casually mentioned my promotion. Don leaned back in his chair, took a sip, and said loud and clear, "A woman providing for a man? That's pathetic." No offense. He even smirked after he said it. I looked at Mark. I waited. I needed him to say something, anything. He didn't. He kept eating his damn steak like nothing had happened. I excused myself and sat in the bathroom for 10 minutes trying not to cry. I stared at my reflection thinking, is this my life now? This is who I married? When we got home, I expected him to say something. Apologize. Defend me even a little. He didn't. He acted like it never happened. Watched SportsCenter. Went to bed. I started sleeping with my back to him after that. Days passed. I buried myself in work. Tried to convince myself that maybe he was going through something. Maybe he was just lost. Then came the real betrayal. It was a Tuesday morning. I showed up at the office early, as usual. But something felt off. My office door was open. My desk was empty. I mean, empty. Not a sticky note in sight. No laptop. No files. No pictures. Nothing. I went straight to Angela, my boss. She looked confused when she saw me. "I thought you resigned," she said. "What?" "You submitted your resignation last night. Through the portal. Said it was effective immediately." I told her I didn't do that. She showed me the submission. Logged in under my credentials. My laptop, 11:43 p.m. That's when it hit me. I drove home. Shaking. Mark was in the kitchen, making toast, acting normal. I walked in and said, "Did you use my work laptop last night?" He didn't even pause. "Yeah. You submitted my resignation?" He looked at me and said, "You work too much anyway. I figured this would be better for us." I felt the air leave my lungs. He decided for me. He stole my career because he couldn't handle his pride being bruised. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I walked to the desk, opened the drawer, pulled out the envelope I'd been hiding. Divorce papers. Already signed. Already notarized. I handed them to him and said, "I've been waiting. You just made it easier." He actually laughed and said, "You're not serious." I didn't say another word. I just grabbed my purse and walked out. I drove to my sister's house in Gastonia that night and haven't spent a minute under the same roof with him since. And trust me, that's not the end. The first night at my sister's place, I barely slept. My phone kept lighting up, calls from Mark, texts ranging from "come home, we can talk" to "you're overreacting." I ignored them all. The next morning, I sat with my sister, Claire, and told her everything. She stared at me like she was waiting for the punchline. "He resigned you," she said. That's insane." "I think he wanted to control me," I said. "Or maybe he wanted me out of the way so he didn't feel small." Claire poured coffee, handed it to me, and said, "This is not just messed up. It's criminal." I hadn't even thought of that yet. I just felt numb. But Claire was right. I called Angela later that morning. Told her everything. I also told her I had a backup of my work data on my personal cloud. And I had the login report that showed the IP address of the resignation request. It didn't match mine at the time, it matched the IP from our home network. Angela escalated it to HR and legal. The company took it seriously. Within 48 hours, they confirmed it was unauthorized access and considered it a case of identity fraud and employee sabotage. Not just a violation of policy, something that could be pursued legally. Meanwhile, Mark kept texting like we were in a dumb little fight. "You'll thank me for this," he wrote once. "You were running yourself into the ground. I saved you." That's when I realized he really believed he'd done nothing wrong. I got a call from HR later that week. They told me they were reinstating me. My position, my title, everything. Angela vouched for me. She was pissed. Told them if they didn't bring me back, she'd walk. It felt like someone had pulled me out of a ditch. But then, another twist hit. While cleaning out my old iPad, which Mark never bothered to reset, I found something. An email. Logged into his personal Gmail. It was to a woman named Rachel. He'd sent her photos of our house. Our living room. Our bedroom. He said, "Soon, it'll be ours. She's always working. She won't even notice me leaving." The email was dated 2 weeks before he submitted my resignation. 2 weeks. He'd already made plans to leave me. He was talking about furniture, redecorating, and finally being happy. And that's when the dots connected. He didn't want me to quit for my own good. He wanted me out of the way. With no job, I'd be too overwhelmed to stop him from taking what he wanted. The house. My money. Maybe even some pity from this Rachel woman, if she didn't know the truth. So I started digging. I pulled every shared bank record. Every credit card. Every cloud account. Every bit of tech he thought he'd hidden from me. He'd been using my name to open a second checking account. Transferring small amounts over time. Hiding money. He'd been planning this. And Rachel? She wasn't just some fling. She was a recruiter. He'd met her on LinkedIn. They'd been chatting for months. She helped him land interviews. He told her I was emotionally unstable, that he was trapped, and trying to help me by ending my career so I could rest and recover. He painted me like some broken woman who didn't know how to stop working. That was the story he'd been feeding her. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. But instead, I screenshot everything. I printed every message. Every email. I organized it all into a neat little binder. And then I reached out to Rachel. I wasn't sure what Rachel knew, or what she believed. So I didn't come in swinging. I sent her a calm email from my personal account. Subject line: "You deserve to know the truth about Mark." I attached the binder of screenshots, emails, DMs, call logs, transfers, everything. I added a note. "Hi Rachel, I believe you've been speaking with my husband, Mark. I thought you should know what he's been doing behind the scenes, before you get in any deeper. These are your emails with him, pulled from our shared devices. He used my work laptop to impersonate me and submit a fake resignation to my employer. He also secretly opened accounts in my name and has been slowly moving money. He told you I'm unstable. I'm not. I'm just tired of being lied to. You may not have known any of this, and if that's the case, I'm sorry. But if you did, I want you to understand the kind of man you're dealing with." I didn't expect her to respond. But she did. 1 hour later, she replied, "Oh my God. I had no idea. I thought you two were separated. He said you were violent. I'm so sorry. Please let me know if there's anything I can do to help make this right." So I called her. And we talked. Turns out, Rachel was just as manipulated as I had been. Mark told her I was controlling, cold, and had refused to divorce him. He said I threatened to destroy his life if he left me. He even told her I had a breakdown and lost my job. She admitted she helped him with interviews. Gave him resume advice. Introduced him to a friend in a software firm based in Durham. "Has he accepted anything?" I asked. "Yes. He just got an offer," she said. "They want him to start in 2 weeks. I asked her to send me the details. She did. Job offer. Salary. Location. Now I had even more leverage. But it gets better. Mark didn't just lie to Rachel, he'd been lying to that company, too. He used a slightly altered version of his resume. He inflated his last position, saying he was the CTO of his startup. He wasn't. He listed a fake consulting project that never existed. And guess whose name he put as a reference contact for that project? Mine. Full name. Work number. Email. He never thought I'd find out. He thought I'd be too shocked and humiliated to dig this deep. So I did what anyone would do. I called the company. I asked to speak with HR. I calmly told them I was listed as a reference on a candidate's application and needed to clarify a few things. They asked the name. I said Mark Halverston. Silence. Then, "Hold, please." The HR rep came back, nervous now. I told her I had reason to believe this candidate had submitted false information. That he had impersonated me professionally. That he'd forged references and faked entire parts of his experience. I offered to email full documentation. She said yes. Less than a day later, Rachel messaged me again. They pulled the offer. He never saw it coming. And that wasn't the only thing he lost. I'd been quiet. Keeping to myself. He thought I was just licking my wounds. What he didn't know was that I'd been working with my lawyer behind the scenes. Because those accounts he opened in my name? That money he moved? It gave us enough for a fraud claim. Not just identity fraud from the resignation stunt. Bank fraud. Felony level. I wasn't interested in ruining him just out of spite. I was interested in holding him accountable. But as it turns out, there was still more I didn't know. Because when my lawyer subpoenaed records for a deeper financial review, we found something buried in our mortgage history. Something Mark had signed without my consent. Something that would blow this thing wide open. What we found in the mortgage records nearly sent me over the edge. 6 months before all this happened, before the fake resignation, before Rachel, before Dawn's pathetic comment, Mark had secretly taken out a home equity line of credit using our house. He forged my signature. He pulled $38,000. The money had been slowly drained into one of the hidden accounts. When my lawyer dug deeper, we found payments made to high-end electronics stores, a down payment on a luxury lease, and a 2-week Airbnb stay in Asheville, one he'd taken with Rachel under an alias. Rachel had no idea about that part either. She thought it was a business retreat. She didn't even know he was using fake names. I felt sick. This wasn't just betrayal. This was a full-blown heist, with me as the victim. My lawyer and I went straight to the police with everything. They took it seriously this time. He had committed bank fraud, wire fraud, and forgery, all felonies in North Carolina. Since he forged mortgage-related documents and used the house as collateral without my knowledge, he opened himself up to federal charges too. I filed for an emergency protective order. Froze all joint accounts. Notified the financial institutions. Pulled my name off anything I could before he tried another stunt. The cops arrested him 2 days later, at his parents' house. The look on Dawn's face when they slapped the cuffs on Mark? I wish I could bottle that moment and replay it whenever I need a little joy. But it gets better. Remember that Rachel was a recruiter? Well, she had connections, and when she found out how deep Mark's lies ran, she flipped completely. She started contacting every hiring manager he'd been speaking with. She didn't do it to help me. She did it because she was humiliated. He used me, she said. I'm going to make sure nobody hires him again in this state. She meant it. She torched his professional reputation. The tech world in our region is tight. Within 2 weeks, his name was radioactive. He couldn't even get callbacks for mid-tier IT helpdesk jobs. Now let me tell you how the court stuff went. Mark was charged with forgery, identity fraud, bank fraud, computer crimes, unauthorized access of electronic systems, related to my resignation. Mortgage fraud. My lawyer presented everything: documents, call logs, IP traces, screenshots. Angela from my company testified. So did Rachel. Mark pled not guilty at first. Tried to say I was framing him out of spite for the divorce. Then the prosecution dropped one more bombshell. They'd uncovered a deleted draft of an email on his laptop addressed to Rachel. In it, he said, "If I can get her to quit and sign over the house, we'll be free. She won't fight once she's broke." That was the nail in the coffin. He changed his plea to guilty. The judge didn't hold back. He was sentenced to 6 years in prison, with a required minimum of 3 before parole review. Fined. Ordered to pay restitution. The judge said, "You didn't just betray your wife. You tried to erase her life." As for Dawn? He had the nerve to try to call me after sentencing. Said he didn't know it had gone that far and that Mark needed help. I let him talk. Then I said, "You called me pathetic for providing. I provided stability, a home, a future. Your son tried to steal it all. So now, Dawn, I want you to remember this: your son didn't fall. He jumped. You just taught him how to land wrong." Then I blocked his number. I sold the house. Bought a small condo uptown in my name only. I stayed at my job another year, then launched my own consulting firm. Angela became my first client. Rachel and I stayed in touch, weirdly enough. Not friends, but allies. She even referred me to a company I now work with part-time. As for Mark, he sends letters from prison. I don't read them. I burn them. My story isn't about being a victim. It's about what happens when someone pushes too far and thinks you won't push back. I rebuilt everything he tried to take. And I did it on my terms. He thought ending my career would break me. He didn't realize I was just getting started.